And welcome everybody to God's Views on Political News. I'm here today with my co-host Bill Cloud, as always. How you doing, Bill?
Yee! Yeah, I'm doing great.
Bill's always that, lively, positive every day. And he's saying that because we were talking a little bit about the subjects that we're going to talk about today, and we're both kind of, me probably more than Bill. I'll speak for myself. I'm really just angry, I guess, because I'm getting so tired of hearing the issues that are going on with the NFL. And so let's start with that. The NFL on Sunday, they were in London, and I think it was Ravens. I don't even remember, and I don't even care at this point. They were over in London, and they took a knee, and they wouldn't stand for the national anthem, but they could stand for God Save the Queen, whatever. To me, it's let me just get myself together. I think there's no excuse for going on public soil and doing something that is against your country. The Dixie Chicks did that with President Bush. And after that, people went out and they just steamrolled over the Dixie Chicks CDs. I wish the NFL had CDs, but, there are people who are burning their jerseys and just saying, you know what, I've had enough. This started out with Colin Kaepernick, and this was supposedly all about police brutality to black people by white cops. That's what it started out with, and that's why he took the first knee. And now it has morphed into something else. But before I go into that, Bill, your thoughts so far?
Well, so far, I haven't watched football in close to 20 years. So I gave up on professional sports a long time ago for a lot of other different reasons, frankly. But boiling it down, it's at some point for me, it just ceased to being a game and something that, to sit down and be entertained by. And it just became, I don't know, something else I didn't want to participate in. So I quit watching. When John Elway retired, I did too. So
it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time. So I haven't kept up with it as far as the league, and I haven't kept up with who's playing who and who goes to the Super Bowl. Frankly, I don't care. All right, but back to the issue. I'm not surprised. I mean, I'm not really surprised that they're acting this way. It's childish, I think. I think it's, unpatriotic and all those kinds of things. But the bottom line is these are people who are not oppressed. I think I read somewhere that the least paid NFL player makes something like $450,000 a year, and that's on the bottom. And they're gonna represent, the oppressed people. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I think it's anger. I think it's childishness. And personally, this is just my opinion. If the NFL ceased to exist today, I wouldn't bat an eyelid. My life would go on unaltered whatsoever.
Well, and you bring up a good point. These people are the millionaires and the one percenters that the left seems to say are people that you should hate. And I use that word hate. You should not trust them. You should not like them. They're out of touch. They don't understand. And yet we find all the time people like Senator Elizabeth Warren, she's a one percenter too, and most of the other people on the left, frankly, are one percenters. So for these people, I look at them and I see them taking a knee. And a lot of people say, yeah, but this is all about, it's a racial issue. Because it's, again, if you look at it from the Colin Kaepernick point of view, it was all about police brutality against black people, so they make it a racial issue. Most people, including the president, are looking at it as this is a patriotic issue. And I'll be quite honest, I don't care if you have a political point of view. You can go out all day long, anywhere you want to go, when it's not on my time and on my dime. And you can protest all you want as long as you do it legally. You can take a knee out on my sidewalk if you want to, because you can do that. But when you take that to the game, when you take it to a place where this shouldn't be about politics. This is and I don't want to say this to anybody who's a real football fan. This is a stupid football game, okay? I mean, it's a football game.
No, it is. It's a stupid football game.
Yeah.
I mean, I would challenge the average football fan to name the last 10 winners of the Super Bowl. It's a stupid game.
Yeah,
That's all it is.
It's the game, but it's a game where the people who are paying for the tickets, they're not interested in what your free speech political views are. For me, people were saying, yeah, but they're taking a knee. What's the problem? And they're not talking, standing up for the national anthem. You can't force somebody to sing the national anthem, whatever. But you know what? Stand up. That is just, for me, that is just the decent thing to do. Don't participate. If you just want to stand there and not say anything, that's fine. But when you take a knee, you're making a political statement. Now, that political statement morphed into, we don't like what Donald Trump said about, let's just fire the, SOBs. And
right. And he shouldn't have said that.
You had some thoughts about that.
Yeah, he should not have said that. I'm sorry. I mean, just like everybody else he believes. I don't think he should have said that. I think he should have restrained himself. That being said, these people should restrain themselves.
But isn't that always the case?
So, yeah,
it's always the case where the people on the right are supposed to always restrain themselves. The people on the left can do whatever because they have reason to, because they're whatever, oppressed by the left, right, oppressed by this, oppressed by that, didn't get their way or whatever. And the right's supposed to stay silent while everybody else is supposed to have the ability to say what they want to say.
Well, we could say that everybody has the right to voice their displeasure with this, that, or the other. I just think that it is childish to use something like my anthem to do that, personally.
Yeah.
Growing up, my favorite female singer in the whole world was Linda Ronstadt. And then she started talking. And the more she talked, the less I listened to Linda Ronstadt. So I'm saying that for this reason. The owners, all these guys, they're making all these big bucks. I may be wrong, but it seems to me the foot. Eventually, people are going to get tired of this and just, do something else.
Yeah, and I think they're already starting to do that. There are a lot of people who are starting to already, burn their T-shirts and their hats and their jackets and things like that to show the NFL. You need us. We don't need you. We and sometimes, Bill, I look at it this way: we, the American public, have put these people up on a pedestal, and we've done that for a very long time.
Susan, is my issue with the National League. I mean, with Major League Baseball, with entertainment industry. Yeah, that's my problem. We've put these people up on a pedestal, and it's a very hard thing for a human being not to receive veneration. And so that's my core issue with all of it. Sports, entertainment, the whole lot, is because we let these people, we put them in a position where we worship them and they expect to be worshiped. Yeah.
And that's my point. It's idolatry. I mean, if you really want to boil it down to biblical terms, it's idolatry. We pay
exactly
them,
what it is.
Yeah. We pay them the money that we do because we think that's their worth. And they certainly think that's my worth. And because I'm a millionaire and you worship me, quote unquote, worship me, I can say and do whatever I want to, and you're going to take it and you're going to accept it and you're going to be okay with it and you're going to learn to live with it, And I think right now people are saying, no, we're not going to do that. And there, one of the things that I thought came out, it looked pretty good at the beginning, was Alejandro Villanueva on the Steelers team. He's a veteran of like Afghanistan and I think he's been in like 3 different wars or whatever. But anyway, he decided when everybody else was in the locker room that he was going to come out, and he stood for the national anthem, his hand over his heart. And I was thinking, great, here's this hero in the midst of all this. This guy did the right thing. He stood up and did the right thing. But then the next day, I'm sure after he was chewed out by his team, chewed out by the coach, told that he was going to lose his job, what does he do? He comes out and he says, gosh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't stand with my team. I embarrassed my team. I embarrassed my coach. My thoughts are these. No, Alejandro, they embarrassed you. You know why? Because you're a veteran. You earned the right to stand there with your hand over your heart and stand for the national anthem. They should have stood in unity with you. They embarrassed you. They owe you an apology, not the other way around. But of course, money was probably the deciding factor for him.
I don't know. Maybe it was just the pressure from the coach. Who knows? I've read something about the coach saying that he was looking for 100% participation when they decided to sit the national anthem out, which I think he went on to say something like that in a show of respect for the team. Well, the team here is your nation, your country. That's the team that you should be respecting, even if you disagree with a lot of stuff. And, because I disagree with a lot of stuff. So this gentleman, I won't try to pronounce that name. Where
I'm
he's
from California. We can do that.
You can do that. Well, I'm from Tennessee. I'm a hick. So, for me, it's like, you see somebody take a stand and you go, well, good for you. Kind of bust your balloon when they take a stand and then somebody pressures them to, for whatever reason, to cave in. So it kind of reminds me of what the Messiah said, yea, and your nay be nay, say what you mean what you say. And like Davy Crockett used to say, seeing that he's from Tennessee, when you know you're right, go ahead.
Yeah. Do
what's right and stand by it. And who knows what kind of pressures were brought to bear, but he did. He apologized. It's just goes to show you how influential these institutions or industries, probably is the better word, like the NFL can be.
Yeah. And it's, it's very sad. And I was also saddened to see that Jerry Jones of the Cowboys. I thought, great, here's one guy who's going to stand up. He's not going to allow his team to take a knee. And, I got, reeled in there to thinking this guy was, because he's from Texas, right? There's hope because there's Texas. And so what do? They go out before the national anthem, lock arms, and they take a knee, and then they stand up for the national anthem. Now, a lot of people said, well, what's the problem with that? It was before the game, no big deal. Now, the way I look at it is, yeah, there's a big deal. You went out. Again, cameras were on you. The game hadn't started, but you were there to do a job. You got paid to go out to play football. You didn't get paid to go out, lock arms, take a knee, make a political statement, on the field, and then get up and play the game. It was still a political statement. And if you're saying, well, oh no, they just locked arms and they showed unity for what?
Right.
What were you taking, there's a political statement there being made.
Seemed to me like he and the team were just trying to play both sides of the fence. We don't want to offend the fan base, but we don't want to offend all these other people out there either. So they're
right.
Again, I will defer to my previous statement. Let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. And besides that, what is his name? Jerry Jones? Is it that what is?
Yeah.
Jerry Jones. He's the guy that fired Tom Landry a long time ago. So I hope his team loses.
Well, and I had people giving me all types of arguments, people who really love the Cowboys, and I get it.
By the way, ginger ale. I just want everybody to know ginger ale.
I'm glad you explained that because I could just hear it now. Bill was downing a beer on.
Yeah. No, ginger ale. I'm still dealing with allergies, and so I'm trying to keep my whistle wet.
Good. But people were saying after that, Cowboy fans were saying to me, but my Cowboys, they didn't make a political statement. again, my point is, yeah, they made a political statement. When you come out locking arms, taking a knee, you're making a political statement. And my thoughts are, if, just be honest about it. If you love the Cowboys and you can't do anything else because, man, you just got to watch the Cowboys, just say, look, I'm going to put my principles aside for a minute and I'm just going to watch the game and I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm like, okay, I can deal with that. But now to be blinded and say, oh my gosh, well, there's no political statement because you want to watch the Cowboys. Is this where we've come to? Where the truth is right in front of us, and now we're just going to say, no, that I don't see that.
Well, once again, when it comes to watching football, I don't have a horse in this race. I could care less about who wins and who loses. I am impressed with the fact that so many people are willingly taking a knee in protest, but so defiant to bend their knee in humility to the Creator. And so that it's kind of an irony for me, and I'm sure for many others watching all of this unfold. But I am also reminded that there will come a day that everyone will bend a knee. Everyone will take a knee, because from a time when all of our veneration of gods, all them celebrities, there's going to come a day in the future when we have to acknowledge, willingly or unwillingly, who the king is, who is supreme, and rated, who is to be worshipped. So I think for believers, it would be important to, as we see this unfolding, to remember who we should bow before, who we should bend before, and not allow ourselves to be given over to the reverence usually given to the athletes and to entertainers and the so-called icons of society, because they're just people. And by the way, I mean, professional athletics today is filled with wife beaters, drug addicts, thugs, not every veterans like the man you mentioned and pointed out, but there's a lot of that other stuff. Extreme wealth doesn't go well when placed in the hands of people who don't have any limitations and morals.
Yeah, Jeffrey says, what a society we live in with such sick thinking. How is showing respect for our national flag and, most importantly, those who fought and died for our rights? Now the kneeing and affront to our national anthem has turned into support against racial issues. What does the national anthem have to do with slavery and oppression? Did you want to answer that? Did you have something?
No, I was just clearing my throat.
That's the thing about it. It's the whole argument doesn't make sense. And I think that's why I have a problem with it. I have a problem with people who have a platform by virtue of the fact that somebody put them there. So they figure in no difference to anybody else. They're going to do what they want to do, what they think is best, what benefits them, on and on and on. They, as you said a while ago, we're kind of like the 13th player, right? That's what they call the 13th person on the field or whatever. But they gave no thoughts to what it might do to the fans or anybody else that's watching them, or even to their own team if they took a knee. You talk about unity when somebody goes out and they do that. They're not thinking about the repercussions on their own teams or the NFL or anything. It's all about me and I'm going to do it, that type thing.
Yeah, which kind of brings us to the point of there's a lot more important things going on in the world.
Yeah.
A football field on Sunday afternoon. A lot more important things. And it is that kind of say it's all about me. It's all about very little. Well, it doesn't of the character of some who've chosen to make.
Yeah, we lost a little bit of what you were saying there. I know you're having a little Wi-Fi issues, but I think I got the gist of it.
I was just saying, if you can hear me now, I was just saying that, yeah, it is all about me, and there's a lot more important things right now.
Yeah.
And if you have a platform, why don't you put it to use for actually might help somebody?
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. And also, again, as you pointed out, many of these people have criminal records. And these are the people that they're the role models for our children. These are the people that we're supposed to look up to. And again, we should know that we shouldn't look up to them. We should be looking up to God. And that's part of the problem and how we've gotten here and gotten off the rails here. But you look at this and they take this and try to make it into a racial issue. And I think that's one of the things that also bothers me is they take anything these days, and they being the people on the left who are doing this and trying to make it a racial issue. Now, granted, as you said, the president used said SOB and maybe could have gotten and used a different word and it would have come out better, whatever. But today we had Sheila Jackson Lee, who went on to the House floor in the Congress and started talking about, this was, basically it's all about race. The whole thing is all about race. And she said, but I have an NFL player who came to me and said, basically that he's going to be taking a knee now every game because President Trump insulted his mother by calling him an SOB. So he called his mother a B, right? So now we've gone from, it's all about police brutality to, okay, we're going to do this against Donald Trump because he called the players the SOBs. They should be fired. And now, you did it because it's my mother you're talking about. So, and she was saying, her point was that now what linked up there is that when you call somebody an SOB, you're being a racist. So it's what we talk about almost every week. And it is something, I know, there's no connection, there's no logic, it doesn't make sense because there is none, right? And we talk about this every week. The true fact of what we're doing here is, again, trying to divide, create chaos, make you think that, that the president is a racist, that everybody in the world is a racist. And we see this kind of, now it's gone over into football. And looking at this, to me, it's like this is part of the resistance. It's all it is. It's what we're seeing.
Help me out. Isn't she a congresswoman from Southeast Texas?
From Texas, uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, her district has just been, ravaged.
Yeah, we didn't hear any of that. I think what you're trying to say is that her district has just been ravaged by Harvey. Hurricane Harvey. Yeah, hurricane.
You would think that she would have better things to do.
Right. No, but she can go to Congress in Washington, D.C. instead of maybe being in Texas and helping those people actually in Texas. But she has time to talk to the NFL player who I guess just called her up and said, this is what I'm going to be doing from now on because he insulted my mother. And, oh, by the way, he's a racist.
Well, again, Osnick should have chosen a better. Come on, he knew that it was going to ramp it up, but that doesn't mean that people have to be so disrespectful of the presidency or the pledge. At some point, the big boys are going to have to show up, put on their big boy pants, and let's just put a stop to some of this. I don't think that's going to happen.
It's not going to happen, and it's also going over into now where, in NASCAR, they said that, if anybody takes a knee in NASCAR, you're going to be fired. And so, and everybody said, that's great, that's really great. Well, and then you have Jenna Acosta, and you've heard the name before from CNN, who came out sort of like the next day and was at a press conference yesterday and asking Sarah Huckabee Sanders, by the way, what was the trying to make it a racial issue because the majority of people in the NFL, according to him, they're black, the black players, and the people who are NASCAR, and he didn't say white. He wanted to make sure he didn't say that, but he said ethnic, they're different, race or different ethnicity. So, is this all about race? And why, kind of like, why is the president so racist? And she says it's about patriotism.
Yeah. Well, they're not just white. Most of them are hillbillies. Let's face it.
Rich hillbillies.
Yeah, true. But a lot of those guys in NASCAR talk like this here. I don't watch NASCAR. I don't watch NASCAR either, by the way. Anyhow, everybody's bent on the gotcha issue or question, probing for something to blow up. As far as I'm concerned, Susan, this little NFL thing, it should be just that, a little NFL thing. But the more attention they get, the more they're going to do it.
Exactly.
Quite frankly, And, as I said earlier, there's things going on in the world a lot more, to me anyway, there's a lot more important, frankly, a lot more newsworthy than the NFL protests and this whole take a knee thing. In my state, not too very far from where I live, some people were gunned down just a couple of days ago. You and I were talking before we came on how that is more or less not even discussed.
Yeah. And that was at a chapel, Burnett Chapel, I think it was, in Antioch, which is near Nashville. And it was on Sunday where a 25-year-old, a man from Sudan, walked into, he's being alleged, he killed a woman at as she walked out of church early to go to her car, killed her right there, walked into the church and started shooting at people, injured, I think it was sort of like 6 people. And a 22-year-old hero went out to his car, got his gun, came back in, shot the guy, and then kept him there. And after being pistol whipped and everything else, I think is what I heard, and kept him there until the police came. Now, instead of hearing about that on Sunday, it was all about the NFL. My thoughts are, Tennessee Titans, why didn't you go down to the church and see what you could do to help those people? If you're taking a knee for everybody, why don't you go down and take a knee at the church and try to help those people in your own community? Why do these people, they're all talk and no do? We have all these great causes that they want to take a knee for. And yes, some of them do go out and they do help their community. I know that because they do in San Diego when they were here as the Chargers. But the majority of people...
Not a sore subject for you, though, right?
You tell a little eye roll on that one, boy.
I got that.
And now they're thinking about coming back because they're not wanted in LA. Well, guess what? No, anyway. So, that's what gets me about that. That is important. That Harvey's important. What happened in Irma in the hurricane? People are still suffering. Maria, people in Puerto Rico need help. So these players have a lot of money. Now, I don't believe that, you're not required if you have a lot of money to do anything. You should, but you're not required to. And if you don't, that's your choice. But you want to sit there and you want to take a knee. You want to take the easy way out. The way I look at it too, not only are you disrespecting the United States, you're disrespecting every veteran who fought and died for that flag and for your right to sit there and take a knee.
And
that's what burns me up.
Yeah, I would agree with that. They're guarded by that they think are so, oppressive. They're protected by men and women from the military who every Sunday at a football game are represented by honor guards and who carry the flag out on the field. Yeah, I find that very distasteful. And, the fact that they are, what they're doing is trendy.
Yes.
It's fashionable.
Uh-huh.
It's like the girl, I don't know what her name is. She's some actress, so-called actress from Hollywood who talked about she regrets not even having an abortion or something like that, because abortion is trendy, it's fashionable. And so it gets headlines. And that's, unfortunately, that's what our society starves for. That's what it hunger and thirsts for these days. Headlines, retweets, all this kind of nonsense. So I think they're just doing it because it's the fashionable thing to do. And, they don't really, and I say this in a generalization.
Right.
Because there are a lot of good people that are playing ball and, they do help their communities.
Yes.
But, if they're wanting to act like they want to do something, but they're not really doing anything, they're just taking their cues from a lot of our leaders in Washington, in state capitals, because that seems to be the mindset now.
Yeah.
Let's do what's fashionable. Let's do what's trendy. Let's don't do what's right.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, let's say you think it is about, and not you, but in general, if you think it's about race and you think it's about, black people are oppressed and all that, then why not help? Why not become a big brother in your community to black children, who need a role model to look up to and be that role model that they should look up to. But why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you buying clothes for the poor? Why aren't you helping those people that you claim to really want to help? I mean, it's, and I hate to say this. I'll call her out. It's Maxine Waters in California, in Los Angeles, who she, if you don't know her, she's a congresswoman. She's an African American congresswoman. Yeah, everybody has to know of her. But she sits there and talks about how oppressed everything is and how she hates Donald Trump and all that. And she doesn't even live in her own district. She lives in a mansion about an hour away. But you're sitting there and you're talking about how you care about the people in your own district, and she doesn't help them. So, I mean, come on. Why do we not call these people out? Well,
that's a good question. There was a radio guy up in the Boston area that cornered Elizabeth Warren and did ask her that question, more or less.
Yeah,
and she made a hasty departure, as I recall.
She did. I'll just tell you, she was there. Yeah, it was WRKO, I think, or whatever radio station. And they found out she was there. She was taping something for a probably Veterans Day show, in November, Veterans Day, and pre-taping. And so she walked out and he said, "Can I ask you a question?" And she said, "Sure," because she thought, "Oh, great, we're going to get our pictures taken. This is going to be great publicity." And so he said, "You're always talking about the 1%. You are the 1%. You're a multimillionaire. You live in a mansion." And all of a sudden, here comes Elizabeth like, I've been ambushed. And I'm telling you, she changed her dialect. She changed her language. And she looked at the guy. Now, this is a woman that went to Harvard, and she was paid multi-billion bucks, $1 million or whatever, to teach one class at Harvard. And she sat there and she stood there and she said, "Look, and she said the word, I wasn't born in Cambridge." And she said it like that. She went into the
You mean she talked like me?
She talked like you, Bill. And I mean, she said, "My daddy had." Now, these people don't talk like that. Like, please, don't be fake.
Oh, wow. Well, so, when I go to New England, they crack on me.
Yeah, do you change your tone and language, Bill, when you go someplace else?
No, I talk just like I talk today. But when I go to New England, they're definitely picking up that I'm not from around there.
Right. Yeah, and I guess what it is, I hate the fake and phoniness that we get from our Congress people, the politicians, in Congress, from the NFL players, but all those people who want to say, "Oh, I'm doing this for you." I'm sorry. I'm not a multimillionaire, and it's okay that you are. But please don't try to act like that you care about the people that you claim that you care for. Some of them do. I'm not saying everybody, but some of them are so far removed that they have no idea what anybody is going through, and they could care less.
Well, if I watched football, I would be of the mindset, when you put your pads on, shut up and play ball.
Exactly.
When I pay my ticket to go see Linda Ronstadt, which I've never done,
Yes.
but if I paid my ticket to go see Linda Ronstadt. I'm not really interested in her political views.
Yeah.
I want to hear her sing "You're No Good," or whatever, "Blue Bayou." That's how I feel about it. I think that's the way a lot of people feel about it. And everybody's entitled to their opinion. Everybody's entitled to their views. Everybody's entitled to be passionate about their views. Yes. But you also need to understand that when you present your views and you're obstinate or you're belligerent, or you're disrespectful, that other people are going to express their views. Yeah. They may not have the venue you do and the platform, but they'll express their views. And as I understand it, in Los Angeles, for instance, fewer and fewer people are showing up for games. As I understand it, fewer and fewer people are tuning in to watch football. Right. And I think it's just a lot of people are just kind of sick and tired of it. We've got enough problems in the world. People want if I watch football, I would just kind of want to escape all that stuff for just a moment and just watch a game. I don't want it to be inserted into that. So, I think that's going to bite them in the backside.
Yeah, and I think, again, I don't care that people have whatever viewpoints, even if it's different than mine. I'm okay with that. Perfectly okay with that. If you're doing it on your own time, own dime.
They're entitled to be wrong.
Yeah. But, and people always say, yeah, but people have free speech. And I think that's kind of where we get off on the definition of free speech. You have the right to say whatever you want. It's a free country, but there's also consequences for what you do. And when you invoke the First Amendment free speech, there has to be a government entity that's involved, and that's what brings about the Constitution. You can't have two people on the street talking and one person said, "You're denying my free speech rights." No, a government entity has to be involved. So, for example, you can, again, you take a knee at work. Go in tomorrow, take a knee at work, and see if you still have your job. Take a knee on, seriously. They're going to say, no, this goes against our company policy. You can't be doing that here, Bill. Would you please leave? That's mostly what you're going to get. And you don't have any free speech rights when that's involved.
Well, I think overall, I want to interject a little spiritual insight into this. And this goes for taking a knee. And, I think this also applies to what the president said in Alabama. The right to say something mean that it's right to say it. And it takes a lot of self to want to say something, maybe even not be right about, if it's going to do wrong. It's best to just refrain. And scripturally, that is something as believers we to do. You're challenged to emulate the Messiah, who more often than not kept his mouth shut when he could have said things that he would have been right. But he sometimes, and especially when he was on trial, he didn't say things. And so every case, but sometimes that not saying something speaks louder than all of this other.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people tuning out of football games now. They're speaking, but Yeah.
Speaking not in words, but in their actions. There are other causes, I think, that are more important to speak up about and to say things about and to get out there and really do something about. There was a woman, a speaker, she went by the name of Christy, and it was in Ohio, and it was the Student for Life rally. And she wanted to come up to the podium. She wanted to share about, she's pro-life. She wasn't always pro-life. She wanted to share about how when she was 16 years old, she had a 21-year-old boyfriend. She became pregnant. They went to Planned Parenthood. And this was 1972, And so she wanted to get up at the podium and share her personal experience. to try to tell people there's a better way to do it. That how sorry she was that she had gotten a divorce. I mean, that she had gotten an abortion, how she went into a deep depression, how she contemplated suicide, how it changed her life, and which ultimately led her to become sterilized because she didn't want to risk having a pregnancy again and then choosing an abortion because she felt it was just wrong. So while she's up there trying to do it, these people who, mostly women that I saw, in pink shirts that said, "I support Planned Parenthood," gathered around her at the podium, screaming, "My body, my choice," trying to drown out all the words that she said so that nobody could hear her. Free speech is okay over here, but it's not okay over here. And so most people probably didn't get to hear what that woman had to say, the important message.
Well, not surprised. The godless segment of society doesn't want anything that's true to be heard. They don't want reason to be heard because there are certain things in this world that certain organizations in this world are concerned. They're godless. Planned Parenthood is one. Freedom from Religion Foundation, that's one of them. So they have a substantive argument, really, that's logical, and when they're faced with truth, that's what the adversary does. He's going to try to hush us up. He's going to try to shut us down. I think I shared this at some point over the past several weeks. There is in the beginning when God, breathed into his nostrils the breath of life and man became a living soul. There are some renderings that said, and man became a speaking spirit. In other words, God created us specifically the truth, his truth, to say these things. That's how we're witnesses. Messiah called us to be witnesses. Well, we have to speak up in order. So what does the adversary do? He tries to shut that down. And what I'm trying to say here is the spectrum of society and all these different things that are going on, what the adversary does, what the godless try to do is truth. Because the truth will set you free. And the adversary doesn't want the truth to be heard. Now, this you're speaking about, this is actually what happens to you when you do these things. And have an agenda, do not want that kind of a message to be heard. Excuse me. This is a tactic of the adversary. So we need to see it for what it is. More than just a politic, and more than just being liberal.
Make sure that I understood that because I heard parts of it and hopefully it came out a little bit better for everybody else. But you're saying more than being political and more, it's a godless. It's being godless. Yeah,
it is the fruit of the adversary, and what he tries to do where truth is concerned.
And we see more and more of this godlessness. Going on all the time. It's people talk about it and they say it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. It's like birth pangs that we see coming. And Christ has said, that this is going to happen. And so how do people, how do they deal with this type of thing? How do you, at times, maybe we ought to go into work and take a knee and talk about abortion and how it's wrong. And of course, you're going to lose your job, in Chicago, this just came out, the two police officers in Chicago took a knee and posted a picture on Instagram with this woman. And Chicago is going to take action against them, the Chicago Police Department, because they said, this is against the police department. Now, and again, they were at work, and they shouldn't have been doing it because they're at work. But is there a time when we should say, well, I don't care. I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to take a knee at the NFL. But, should you be willing at the same time, first of all, that if God tells you to do that, you should go and do it. And should you be willing to lose your job if that happens?
Well, I don't know that there's a one size fits all answer to that question. say that, people have to really be very careful that they're hearing from God and not from their emotions.
Right. True.
If they're going to, do something like that. Because I'm passionate, you're passionate, and we can let our emotions sometimes take over, and in our zeal, say things, do things that weren't not the wisest. Sometimes when we do things out of anger. I mean, when have you ever done something out of anger and then later thought, wow, that's one of the wisest things that I've ever done? So, is there a time and a place to take a stand? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Is there a time and a place to speak up and to be heard? Absolutely. Just make sure it's in the right place. It's the right time. It's the right word. Is it okay to be silent and continue allowing evil and wickedness and darkness to take over? No, that's not good. So again, not a one size fits all. Everybody's going to have to know the truth, and everybody's going to have a keen ear to listen to the voice of God in when to speak, what to say. In fact, he tells us, as his disciples, that eventually we will be brought before kings and rulers. And he said, don't take thought for what you're going to say. I'm going to give you the words to say. And when I give you the words to say, they're not going to have an argument. They're not going to be able to refute it. So I would much rather him give me the words than my emotions feed me the words. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. And too, I said this the other day, and it's hard to put into practice what I really wanted to do. And that is, I really don't want to give the NFL any more time. I want to boycott the NFL. I already have. I don't watch them. I'm like you. I don't watch them. I don't buy their products or anything else. But it's very hard, not to get caught up in it. But as you also said, there are so many more, many more things going on that are really important. North Korea, for example, mm-hmm. they have already, they want to come after us. That, they're working with Iran, and Iran's doing tests, and according to what's come out, that was a fake test or whatever. But we know that North Korea has done that testing. And so, should we not be looking at that? Is the NFL, is this all done, in the bigger scheme of things? Is this a distraction for us? Is that what they're trying to do to make it a distraction for us? I don't know. I mean, that's too conspiratorial, but I mean, there's so many other things. This seems like the NFL seems like a distraction at times to me.
I guarantee you there are tens of thousands in Puerto Rico today who couldn't give a rip about what occurs on a football field in America right now. Guarantee it. Yeah.
No, and also what came out today, and I think it's really important, for people to know. You remember Otto Warmbier, the young man that went to North Korea, and mm-hmm. he, took a flag or something like that, and they held him prisoner. His parents are just now able to start speaking about him and what happened to him. And I kind of want to just read a little bit of what they said. They said that when he came back, the sounds coming out of him was an inhumane howling, that he was blind and deaf, that he had mangled teeth, that he was jerking violently, and that he was moaning on the stretcher, and he had a feeding tube out of his nose. At one point, the howling was so bad and sounded so inhumane and animalistic, I guess, that his mother was scared and ran out of the plane. She couldn't handle it. She couldn't take it. And so, for me, I guess another thing that kind of makes me angry, and I have to admit I'm angry about it, and I wish I weren't, about the whole NFL thing, is people like that, people who were tortured and then returned back to the United States. And yet we don't talk about that. That came out in the news, a small little blurb, Fox News, and then it's done. It's like, oh, okay, whatever. We don't hear about the important things. We're not focused on helping other people. And I'm guilty of it because I'm looking at the NFL thing. I could have been doing so much more in the time that I cared about what the NFL was doing.
Well, unfortunately, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Unfortunately, things like that don't get nearly as many clicks.
Yeah.
That they don't get the clicks that something that is incendiary like this gets, which is kind of one of the reasons I felt like the president should have restrained himself from saying things, because it is incendiary, and those are the things that the news media is going to focus on, and not things like what you just mentioned.
Well, and you're right, because the entire press conference yesterday was taken up by the NFL, what the president said, and we didn't get to anything else. We didn't get to the fact that, again, that North Korea is threatening us with an EMP. That we've, for 15 years, they've been talking about we're vulnerable, and we've done nothing about it. And you were going to say something about North Korea.
Well, I'll tell you what. After today, let's make a pact that we never discuss the NFL ever again. By the way, did you see? And I'm assuming this is, not a joke, but some reporter asked the defense secretary, General Mattis, his thoughts on the NFL and the thing going on with the NFL. And he said, we defend the nation. And that was his answer.
And that was great.
Yeah, well, and it speaks to the issue. If I can interpret him, it sounded like he was saying, you've got an opportunity to ask the Secretary of Defense a question, and that's the stupid question you're going to ask me.
Well, and he's right about that, because as we've been talking about, it really isn't important in the big scheme of things. It really isn't important. And I just wonder, when the times get, as we go further into the end times and the times do get worse, how are people going to handle all of this? Because there won't be things like the NFL to worry about. There will be real problems that you can't look away from. They'll be right there. You'll be in it, whether you want to be in it or not. How are people going to handle that?
They're not. They're not going to handle it. And I can prove that from Scripture. Because the Messiah said, when in the days leading up to his coming, it would be like the days of Noah and Lot. They're building, they're planting, they're eating, drinking, they're marrying, they're giving in marriage. They're doing all the things that they've normally done. And they knew not until the flood came and swept them all away. In other words, they're going to be completely engaged in all these things and have no idea what's getting ready to hit them. And when it hits them, they're not going to be able to deal with it.
And then, as Christians, what do you feel like is our job as the ones that are the believers, the ones that know what's coming? And when we're there in that situation, what is our job?
Well, I think it's important that we continue to speak about the things that are important. Namely, that we're all in need of a Redeemer. We all should be on our knees before God, not in protest, but in humility. I believe it's important to continue speaking about the things that, using political stories, if you will, but to go into what's really going on. What does it look like right now? What's behind all these things? So I think we continue to speak of these things. Now, what people do with it, we have no control over. Noah was a preacher of righteousness, it said. But in the end, only he, his wife, 3 sons, and 3 daughter-in-laws got on the ark. What people do with it, we can't control. But it is our duty, truth, to uphold it before people.
You said it's our duty to, and I lost you there.
We need to speak the truth.
Uh-huh.
We need to uphold the truth
and to seek the truth. I think was the last thing that you said, I believe.
I said, and to live the truth. Sorry.
And to live the truth. Okay. No,
and
it's
to
okay.
live the truth. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it was the Wi-Fi, I guess, going in and out. So, but it's okay. Yeah,
Sorry, I am from Tennessee. Sorry.
You are from Tennessee. I know. I did understand you. I just couldn't hear you.
We have Tennessee Wi-Fi. Sorry.
Somebody's out there with aluminum foil on a stick, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
And
I'm out here with an aluminum foil hat. So.
Exactly. Tinfoil hat. See, I'm from the South, so I can make fun of it.
Okay.
But I was thinking too, I was watching, I don't know how many nights this has been now, but I was watching the people in St. Louis who are still protesting and still, I mean, literally last night laying down on the freeway and laying down in the middle of the road and not being removed. And I'm thinking, I was so hoping that lawlessness was going to go away. And I should have known better. I just thought, great, we got law and order. We're coming back in. We're going to get somebody to get those people out. And it's not happening. We're allowing them to just break the law and we're going on like everything's normal.
Well, it's unfortunate, but Wyatt Earp is dead. So the days of Wyatt Earp are probably long behind us.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because I know a lot of people are looking at that and going, why aren't the National Guard? Why aren't they being called? Why aren't you taking every one of those people out of the streets that are actually, they're breaking the law just by being in the street? And we see it all over. People
are afraid of their political shadow. They're afraid of their own political shadow and how it's going to affect them politically. And so it's not about doing what's right. It's about being right in the eyes of others. And that's going to be our downfall.
And it's so sad because not that we would do it, but if you or I took a knee or laid down in the middle of the street, they would take us and put us in the truck because we're law-abiding citizens that aren't going to cause trouble for people. And politically, it won't make the people look bad. It wouldn't make the police department look bad. It wouldn't make the mayor of the city look bad. But the other people who are out there protesting, if you arrest them, then it's going to make the mayor look bad. Like you've got these people who are, oppressed, or these people who are, whatever the case may be.
Well, a lot of people have made the comparison, but look at how the world responded to Tim Tebow taking a knee and how people are responding to what these other people are doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's true.
That sums it up.
People have lost their jobs. A coach that tried to pray with his team before the game, that's not allowed. That was like, no, you're not going to be able to do that. I think it was a high school game or something like that. But, I think as more and more as we're seeing things fall apart, I know that I'm trying to read here. There were the FBI has made arrests, and they're going to make more arrests from college basketball assistant coaches who are being accused of fraud in a corruption case. And these are from schools like Auburn, SoCal, Arizona, Oklahoma State, and all that. And this is the NCAA people that are involved. It's supposed to be some press conference, I think, that just concluded in regards to what this is all about. I mean, so as we see, again, big money, big problems, crime in a lot of instances. And I think we're going to see more and more of this. Now, I don't know if we're seeing it because more is happening, or if it just wasn't coming out before and was kind of hiding in the shadows and people were hiding it. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I just know that for me, athletics ceased being about the sport and it become an industry. And that's when I lost interest.
Yeah.
And anytime money gets involved, it ends up good.
Yeah. And it's, I think at one point, athletics was pretty good. It was about the kids, it was about teaching kids. But even the kids at the younger levels now, their parents are out, arguing with each other on the field and coming after the coach. And, so something is wrong. And again, as we've been talking, we need to get our focus back on the right place and all that.
That's right. We certainly do. And, we need to remember people who are hurting today, people who have been left homeless by storms and earthquakes and these kinds of things. Those are things we need to be helpful with.
Right. Those are the important things. So, well, until next week, thank you guys, everybody, for being here. Hope you enjoyed the show today. Please, if you would, share this with everyone. And until next week, God bless. Take care. See you then next week.